Let's call this meeting to order, please.
Hey, man. How you doing?
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good to see you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have any comments from the public? I don't see any public, so I'm going to say no. How about corrections to the agenda or the consent calendar?
No, man. I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Okay.
I will second it.
Okay, so that's Wallace and Seffler. And that passes unanimously. And so then we'll go to item 6A, and that's Steve Caswell.
Good afternoon. Today I'm here to request that the board approve the list of pre-qualified SCADA integrators for the wastewater treatment plant generator improvement project. We went out, well, I was here a couple weeks ago asking for approval to go through that process. We completed the process. We had 3 different firms that submitted proposals to be pre-qualified. We reviewed those, and 2 of them were found to meet the requirements of the district, so they will be included in the bid documents for the generator project.
Any questions?
I'll move approval of staff's recommended list of pre-qualified system integrators for the bidding on the wastewater treatment plant emergency generator replacement project. I said one question is that's just well beyond our ability to do, huh?
Yes, for SCADA integration, I mean, it's also something that we've done in the past. Whenever we're tying into our own SCADA system and creating new SCADA screens and new controls, that we do go through this pre-qualification process to make sure that we have reputable and qualified companies to do this.
Okay.
And Dwayne, just to add on to that, we do have some capabilities in-house, but because of the size of the project, it would be too much for our staff.
And the SCADA sort of signals that generator when it's supposed to come on, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it will be all the controls for that.
That's as micromanaging as I get.
And that passes unanimously. Yeah. Now we'll move on to B. It says Julie and Brent, but I don't. Or Brent gets to be all by himself.
Hello, I'm here to talk about flow meters today for the gravity sewer collection system, and request that the board find that one of our suppliers, ADS, provides the only known product line that will perform the intended functions. Also, to waive the bidding procedures in the purchasing policy due to special circumstances, and authorize staff to procure the equipment for the flow monitoring program for a cost not to exceed $186,000. A little bit of history. Last year, we've run the numbers, and over the last fiscal year, our flows increased approximately 30% for a cost of $615,000 more than the average of the previous 3 years. And so that's what's triggered a lot of this effort into looking closer at our gravity system and flow monitoring to try and get a better handle on it. We've been working with Corolla Engineers since August, when the board approved a task order to look into developing a flow metering program, find the hardware, and identify locations to install these flow meters at. So there's really 3 immediate goals that we hope to get out of the data collected from these flow meters: inform the true pump station capacities for Big 5 condition assessment that we're also currently doing. Being able to get a good handle on how much flow is actually coming into those stations. The existing flow meters are out of date and not accurate, and so these new flow meters will give us good data to back that up, so that any improvements that are recommended as part of that Big 5 project, that those will be relative to the actual flows that we're capturing. Also, tracing the sources of the high inflow and infiltration that we've seen recently, and being able to narrow down where those flows are coming from and when, and coordinate with those with weather data, etc., as well as being able to use this new flow metering data to upgrade our sewer model, our computer modeling software that models how the system reacts both in domestic use and storm use. And so these flow meters will help us recalibrate that. That was built about 10 years ago. They did some flow metering at the time, but it was a lot more limited, and it was, I think, only a month or two worth of data. By purchasing these flow meters, we'll be able to capture data year-round, different seasons, and we'll be able to move these flow meters in the future because we'll own them. Working with Corollo, we identified multiple products. We looked at both the ADS that we're proposing to purchase, as well as their competitors. We did Corollo did some real good cost comparisons for us. We also looked at a lot of options as far as us leasing them versus purchasing them installing them and maintaining them versus us. And we've come to the conclusion that the best thing for the long term and most cost effective is for us to purchase them, install them ourselves. They'll train us on how to install them, and then we'll install them and we'll maintain them over their life. Any questions?
How long do they live?
We're expecting to get upwards of 10 years out of these units. We can get replacement parts as they start to fail. The sensor itself that actually goes down in the pipe and is in the water, that sensor is expected to last 3 to 5 years. I think the replacement cost on those is about $1,300 a piece, and so we've factored replacing some of those into. Thinking here, we've got an annual cost of about $43,000 is what we expect with labor, replacing a few sensors a year, replacing the batteries about once a year. The batteries are expected to last 6 months to 15 months, depending on how much data we're collecting, so we can set how frequently it records a data point and how often it transmits those back to us. So during the storm season, when we're having high storms, we may be able to edit that so that it captures more data and reports back to us more real time, whereas during the summer, when there's less concern, we can capture more of a broad picture and not drain as much battery life. So there's a lot of options with these.
I'm just curious, how much was the lease? What was the difference? Because it sounds like there's a lot of maintenance, like $40,000 a year to maintain it, versus a lease. It seems like there might be something there. There obviously wasn't, or you wouldn't have picked it.
Yeah, and it worked out pretty close to what it would cost us for 1 year for us to be able to buy them. So what it would cost us to lease them and for a year, and then we're done with them, was worked out to pretty close to about a year worth of.
And we'd still have the maintenance if we leased them. I get it. So isolating the I&I, if it was $600,000, $200,000 to save $600,000, that's a big deal. If you can isolate it and stop it.
Yeah, and one of the things that this will also do is we'll use this data to inform where we do our inspections. So with the CCTV camera truck and the manhole inspection and potentially the hydroing as well, looking at what the sewer crew is doing, we'll have some data to really back up and drive where they do those inspections.
The inflow is 30% over the recent average. What is there any trend, like for say the last 10 years on
We went,
flows?
so the reason it's based off the last 3 years average is because the best data we have is at the headworks. And so using our current headworks flow meters, those went in about 4 years ago. And so that was the data that we used so that it would be apples to apples, was we only had data going back those 4 years. So it's this past year compared to the average of the previous 3 years.
I mean, if there's more flow that's either coming in through leaks into the pipe or in manholes, I thought we had sealed a lot of the manholes so that to prevent that. So do you think it's more coming in from leaks?
That's the, right now we don't have any data to back up anything. And so this is one of the tools that we've come up with to start collecting some data, start isolating where these flows are coming from so that we can do those inspections and try and locate where the water is actually coming in.
Kind of goes along with the next, or the item D for the camera truck, so we can have a better idea of what's happening out there.
Exactly.
We have done work on manholes and have been doing it for the last 20 years. It's just we've got thousands of manholes, and obviously with this past winter, with the amount of flooding, obviously it tested manholes that probably weren't tested in previous winters, and along with the groundwater conditions. So it's and plus like the manholes that were looked at 20 years ago are 20 years older. So yeah, we're system. I mean, it's a constant fight to keep I and I out of a gravity collection system. But it's yeah. But you're right. We've been talking about sealing manholes and putting liners in manholes and coating manholes, for 20 years. So.
It's 20 years older, but they were 40 years old then when you started.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and you asked about a flow trend, though. If you actually go back to the data we do have, like since about 1987, when the system was really kind of built, the current system was really in place, and we have fairly good data. The flow trend is down, over from 1987 to basically last year. If you follow an annual trend, the flow is down, and significantly.
That's water conservation, probably.
Well, it's water conservation. We always thought it was. We always thought it was water conservation plus the work on the collection system of replacing, lids with holes in it that are sealed, that don't have holes. Some of the liners, portions of our collection system that we knew were out in the meadows. We have polyethylene, plastic liners in them, fiberglass liners. Excuse me. So we've done work. So we thought that downward trend was both water conservation, less, a less permanent population, and the work on the I&I system, the I&I reduction. So, but it was significant. I mean, you look at 1987, our average flow for 24 hours for the year is close to 5 million gallons, and not last year, but the year before, we were approaching 3.
I remember that.
So yeah, so I mean, it's been we're talking about a significant reduction.
And what's it cost per, let's say, 1,000 gallons? Do we have an idea to treat? You probably have that sort of generally, right?
Yeah, it's not in my head.
Okay.
When you say 600,
That one in your head?
I'm
you
just
say
curious.
$600,000 for the increase. So if it, 3.5, 30% increase on that, another.
We don't have to figure it out now. I was just curious because when you're talking to the public and they say, where'd your money go? We say, okay, we spent this amount of money, but we saved this amount of money because we've got thousands of gallons of water that doesn't need to be treated and coming into our system, and that's what it costs us to fix it, and this is how much we save. It's a good thing that we're doing. Almost seems like it'd be worth it to look at a company to come in and just work on manholes all the time, if it has a significant amount. Because obviously our system is leaking.
I just want to make a couple quick comments. First of all, I do believe this is a very good investment, but when you made the statement that if we spend 2, we'll save 6, that's not really accurate.
No,
because
it's
it
not.
could take years
I understand.
to address the issues. Okay, I just wanted to be clear.
I understand. The
overall goal
That's
should...
why the last question I asked is what what would we really save?
Yeah. The overall goal, hopefully in the future, once we've addressed several of these issues, is that we will save at least as much as what the ongoing costs are.
Yeah. But we just need a tight system. There's
Yeah.
a million reasons why.
Any other questions or a motion?
No. Move that we find ADS provides the only known product line that will perform the necessary intended functions. Waive bidding procedures as outlined in the district's purchasing policy, as is allowed by finding for special circumstances. Competitive proposals would not be useful, would not produce an advantage, or would be undesirable, impractical, or impossible. And authorize staff to procure equipment for the proposed flow monitoring program at a cost not to exceed $186,000.
I'll second that.
Joseph, Lou, and Wallace.
Right, Ken.
And that passes
Thank you.
unanimously. Thanks, Brett. So are you taking over for Shannon, the Tahoe
Yeah, Shannon's out this
manhole?
week, so I'm covering this item for Shannon, and it's on the Tahoe manhole emergency repair. And if you recall, the district declared this an emergency at the board meeting on October 5th. And so the district crews worked with White Rock Construction to complete this rehabilitation project on October 20th. So pretty fast response. And actually, I think we really dodged a bullet on this, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But basically, we constructed a new manhole in the existing manhole out there. The existing manhole was 60-inch diameter, 18 feet deep. Jim came out there one day, and it's quite a challenging construction situation. So we basically did bypass pumping. We went to the bottom of the manhole and rebuilt the base entirely. It's kind of a strange base at this manhole. So it took about 2 days just to build the base in order to stack these manhole sections on top of that base. So there was quite a bit of water intrusion at the bottom. And on that first, if I'm at the bottom, that first 4 or 5 feet, there is about 6 to 8 inches of concrete loss on the side of those walls. And there's some water dripping down and coming in through those walls. If you poked it with a screwdriver, which we told them to stop doing, water would come out. So I think we were, I think this manhole is about 19 years old. And so, I mean, pretty fast degradation, destruction on this manhole. So I don't know whether it was be 1 month or a year, but I think we would have faced a serious problem had we not addressed this manhole immediately. So the timing was, I think, right on this at this stage. Obviously, it's nice to catch these sooner than later, like Tahoe Keys. That cost us, I think, we were looking at $400,000 for that emergency repair. I'm still compiling the cost for this work, but basically we're looking at about $13,000 for the parts, 4 days from White Rock, and then our own crew time. So next board meeting or two, I'll bring those costs back to you and give you a little slideshow presentation. But basically it's a new manhole. It's maybe 50-year guarantee on the product. And we'll put this particular manhole on an enhanced inspection schedule. So unless there's any other questions, the requested board action is to terminate emergency action and to repair the Tahoe manhole AT1 to install a polymer concrete manhole insert system pursuant to resolution number 3070-17.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I just questioned before. I was out there and I was impressed with it, especially the material. It looked like it was very high density and it looked like it's going to stand up for a long time. And talk, the guys are, think you can do it in the future. And is that the?
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Jim. So we work with White Rock. They've had some experience with these repairs in the past. But we also wanted to get our crew some experience in doing this kind of work. And Chris has been real adamant about bringing his crews in to do repairs on our system and save some money. So we worked together with White Rock, and I believe our crew's got a lot of great experience. We think we can tackle this sort of thing in the future. Chris says yes.
This was a 19-year-old?
Yeah, it's an integral.
How many manholes do we have out there?
It's 6,000? About 6,000.
19 years old.
Is that the one right next to the building? I'm sorry, I didn't go out yet.
It's about 20 feet away. Yeah.
We had trouble with one right next to the building once. I remember that.
Just so you understand our system, this manhole is receiving the same flow that was flowing through the sewer lines that failed out at the Tahoe pump station. Because after it goes into the Tahoe pump station, it's pumped out, goes through a force main and dumps into a gravity line, and the gravity line is flowing into the Tahoe pump station through this manhole.
Wow.
So it's the same old sewage that's very high in hydrogen sulfide. That's why you're seeing failures on these manholes. We hope and pray that the rest of the system, and we believe it's true, the rest of the system is not facing the same type of corrosive environment that these are, and so we should not be seeing manholes fail in 20 years. And in fact, we haven't. Most of our manholes are a lot older than 20 years. And, yeah.
If we cut out the I&I, it might be too undiluted.
Pipeline and the manhole out in the Keys. And
Right.
wasn't there a problem with the pipeline going into this one?
Yeah, so if you're familiar with that pump station, but behind the pump station is an old wet well, and from that old wet well, it's about 40 feet to this manhole.
Yeah.
And downstream from this manhole that we're talking about, it goes to the new wet well that we built 19 years ago. So that's how the system works. But in that first 40 feet, we saw, there's groundwater coming in from the top of the pipe. I think about 5 to 10 feet in from the wet well side. So we did have a chance. We did TV that when we were out there doing this work. We TV'd all 3 sections of pipe. The other 2 were fine. This is a section of, it's 30-inch reinforced concrete pipe. So we're looking at options to do a repair on that. So it could be like an in situ form. It could be a liner, kind of like we did at Tahoe Keys. Moving those sections in and connecting them and shoving those down the pipe. Since it's so close to the wet well, and it's 30-inch or 30-inch diameter pipe at that location, we might be able to put something in there and do a repair, just a spot repair on that. But we're still looking at options, but plan on doing that, this month.
So we had a motion and a second. And that
Thank you.
passes unanimously. Thanks, John. Now, Chris, purchase of a sewer camera truck package.
Good afternoon. We've talked a little bit off and on about the camera truck that we have now. It's 20 years old. The Q's system on it, a little outdated. And with all the problems that we're seeing in the sewer lines, manholes, stations, it's really sent up a red flag for a lot of us, including me. But before I get too far into it, the purchase of this camera truck package, is unbudgeted. I wanted to make sure you guys knew that. This isn't something that we planned for, but I wanted you to be aware of it. And at one point we had talked off and on about having one of our old service vans fitted with a new camera system. And after doing some research and some checking, it's some of the quotes that I've seen are roughly $250,000 or more, up to $300,000. We have to send the truck back to the manufacturer of the cameras, which it could be, one of them was in Minnesota. Long story short, it doesn't seem too feasible for the amount of money we would spend to put it into an older van. So over the course of the last few months, we've been looking at different camera trucks, and it all started out there at Tahoe Keys when ProPipe was out there. They had an IBAC camera system, And we really got to know the guy running the camera in there, talking to him. And we've had other people come up and do demos up here. And a new camera truck is a lot more than what we thought it was going to be. We thought at one point we had $150,000 budgeted. Not even close. A brand new camera truck nowadays is going to be upwards of $400,000 plus. So the people, Jack Donaghy Company came up and they had a demo truck. And the IBAC system, which Brent and IP Bryn was all involved in. I wanted them involved in it to see right now with the Q's truck, if we have problems, a lot of times we have to send it out. And you're talking anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And that's downtime for us. So the IBAC system that they have, we did some more checking into it. And it seems to be a lot more modern, a lot easier to work on. And right now we have a printout here that I think it was engineering that did it. And it started back in 2006, and it gives us how much cameraing we've done from 2006 until 2017. And we've been averaging about 11 miles a year with the camera truck. Now, granted, that's not just because of the truck. We've been busy doing other things also. But in 2008 and 2009, they did 20.3 and 25 miles. We need to do better than that. And the camera that we have now, I know there's been some discussion. The camera that we have now, when you go down the line, you have to stop at every joint, every crack, whatever it is, and enter a code to it. It takes a lot of time. You're only getting a certain amount of mileage done a day. With this new technology, it is a panorama type camera. And what that does is it allows you to get into the manhole. You go down the line, you don't have to worry about typing any codes in. It goes right down, you bring it back. You can do this all day long, 7 days a week. Then you can come back at a later date. Then you can sit down and look at the footage and add all your codes to assess what the condition of the pipe is. That right there saves us a lot of time as far as not having to punch in codes, where we can get a lot more camera per day. So looking at this, if we did roughly 33 miles a year, we would have the whole system done in 10 years. Now, 33 miles doesn't seem like a whole lot, but with everything else going on, it's going to take work on our part also to dedicate the camera truck to just take care of that. Just do as much teething every day as we can, because we're not really liking what we see. And I know we've come up here and we've purchased a lot of equipment over the last year, but we've had a lot of people. Engineering's been great, IT, the sewer crew. We've done all the research that we can on all this stuff. We even went to the point where we contacted a couple camera companies to find out what $300,000 would get us per year to have somebody come in and do it for us. We thought, if we could get a bunch done, maybe this would be the way to go. My opinion and staff's opinion, it's not. We got 3 or 4 different quotes. At $300,000 per year, you're looking at anywhere from 25 to 35, 25 to 40 miles a year for somebody to come in and do it. And that's $300,000 a year. So these people came up with a demo truck to show us what was going on. Well, it turns out that demo truck is for sale. And looking at all the pricing on it, the camera truck already loaded up with the cameras, plus the software. Software is going to be roughly, we figure, right around $35,000. The truck itself, tax and everything, you're looking at $272, $392, right in that ballpark. So $307, $392 total. Not a bad deal. I know the district's not into purchasing a lot of used equipment, but when we contacted the guy, the demo truck has 16,000 miles on it, 16,700, and that was at the time of the quote, which was October 10th. The truck is a 2015, but it was not put into service until May of 2016. One person's been operating it the whole time, a gentleman by the name of Nick. He's been with the company for over 16 years, so he knows how to handle the equipment, so we know that it's not beat up. The cameras, they've been mainly used in the truck itself, but they have been rented out 3 times for no more than 14 days. So basically the truck, I would say, in our opinion, is basically brand new. So one, we're saving $100,000 plus by buying something like this compared to buying a new truck. So we like that, right off the top. But having a camera truck that's updated with the problems that we're seeing in the sewer system now, we believe would be a good investment. So that's why we're here today, to ask you to consider approving the purchase of this demo truck.
Not only is it $100,000 cheaper, we get it right away.
Yes, we would be able to get it within 2 weeks.
We can't afford to wait till another 6 or 8 months.
Yes, and by purchasing new or sending out one of our vehicles to be retrofitted, you're looking upwards anywhere from 4 to 6 months. So everybody's been involved, everybody's done research, and we believe that this would be the best route to go for something newer, something faster, and hopefully talking with Bryn that the computers on this and the things that we're looking at for it, they can do a lot of the work on themselves, which I like. Instead of sending it out, we could have them do it in-house, which, you know me, I'm for the in-house stuff. So that's what we've got so far, if you have any questions.
We got a little preview on it the last meeting, so
Okay, good.
kind of expecting this one.
Yeah. And like I said, we do realize it's unbudgeted, but if we didn't feel it was important, water leaks blowing up, okay, you may damage a house. But from what we're seeing in the sewer system, we think it would be a good idea to really get the tools needed for a more efficient truck. We can get more done. The programming on this, we want it to integrate with GIS, so we'll have all these records. Right now we have some records, we downloaded some from Q's, but some was lost, I understand. So this is a lot more reliable, and this is something we can use for the next 20 years and be able to keep accurate data on what we're seing.
What do you do with the old one? Sell it or?
No, the old one, in my opinion, you're not going to get as much money as surplus. So
Or just keep it and
I wanted to keep it, and talking with Doug and the crew, we talked about it, and we'd like to keep it. Right now, Doug's looking in, it needs a new reel, which is probably 12 to 15,000, I think. And what we would utilize that for, one, it would be a backup. 2, we could use it for emergencies if the other one's out. But we do a lot of sewer lateral finalizing for customers. So spot checks, things like that, we'd still like to utilize it. I'd hate to get rid of it and just lose whatever money it is worth, where we could still use it occasionally.
Unbudgeted, but the Tahoe Keys, $400,000 was not budgeted either.
Yes. Yes.
We can prevent one of those. We paid for that.
Yes. And then, like I said, doing the research of hiring somebody to come in and do it for us. It doesn't sound bad, $300,000 for 45 miles, but you're looking at that $300,000 every year for the next 5 years or 10 years to get the whole system done, and that just didn't make any sense to us.
Right then.
you want to do it, Jim, or do you want me to?
I move that we waive the bidding process procedures as outlined in the district's purchasing policy, as is allowed by finding for special circumstances, competitive proposal would not be useful, would not produce an advantage, or would not be undesirable, or would be undesirable, impractical, and impossible. And 2, authorize staff to execute a contract with Jack Doheny Companies in the amount of $252,800 plus tax of $19,592 for the purchase of a used demonstration IBAK camera system in a 2015 Chevy 4500 chassis for a total of $272,392. And 3, authorize staff to purchase compatible software in the amount not to exceed $35,000.
Second that.
I didn't say.
That's okay, we're just hanging out.
We don't mind the irritation.
I didn't mention who did it.
I wonder,
That's
why do
probably.
we not know you?
That way you know we're really sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
And that passes unanimously. That brings us to payment of claims.
I'll move approval, payment of claims in the amount of $2,057,237.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, that brings us to standing and ad hoc committee reports. Does anybody have a report? Do not?
The last ad hoc committee meeting with the city, I wasn't there, but Shannon and Randy were there. And Dwayne, you were there too, right? So that was very productive. So I understand Melanie has sent over suggested dates for November and December.
We had suggested, Randy and I suggested maybe we meet less often, and the city said no. Or the representatives Wendy and Brooke said that was their favorite thing they do every month, and they want to keep it. I think they've learned a lot. I think they've been really impressed with the engineers and staff members that you guys have had them meet. I think they're a little bit in awe of the professionalism and have a different view, because most city councils, they think, oh, well, we could save a lot of money. We just throw a manager over there and get rid of most of the employees. They ain't run that place. It's easy. And once they find the level of expertise, then they understand better the reason we pay what we do and the reason people want to work for us for the challenges we have. You know, it's not boring. So that I get that impression from them. They're just really impressed. They were impressed with Evo when they met with him, and some of our regular, people who run the plant and are in our operations. They're impressed, so that's good. We talked about affordable housing and what might be done, and I expressed my opinion is that each of the agencies, we need to pick an agency that will pick what they've decided is affordable housing, because we're not experts at that, but we also recognize for our own employees that the cost of housing is getting too high and it's eating up what salaries they have, and that a lot of the problem is all the government that's in the way, and that we need to all collectively get together and then get out of the way, especially by dropping our fees, which we've done. And I think you've seen that we've had the effect we wanted to have in some of the meetings you've been in. So it's starting to happen with the city too. We discussed the fact that they have a lot of sewer units for instance, from the ones that they got from the Super 8, or Knights Inn it's called now. And we discussed that they were purchased at a very low price, probably originally. So, and if they were to declare something under affordable, they wouldn't be considered to be gifting public funds, and that we could go a long ways towards getting, and Randy and I explained to them that we could take the sewer units that are now sitting idle and not paying us money. They could go into affordable housing. So it would behoove us to give them, a dispensation to get in action and get into these affordable housing units. And so collectively, we could make a lot of difference. And that altogether, that we needed to lean on TRPA, because all roads lead through TRPA, it seems like. So that was good. And I'm trying to remember the other topics.
Did you guys talk about snow globe? Like providing...
We did talk about snow globe, and I have a personal opinion. I call it meth fest. And we talked about how they're just kind of like zombies. The people come through our property, and that the people that work for us just aren't security guards. That we're not trained in how to stop somebody who's half crazed on drugs to keep them from falling in one of our ponds or something. And Richard or Shannon, I think, said that somebody could die if they fell in there.
Oh yeah, in the aeration basins, definitely. There's so much air in them, you basically sink to the bottom.
Really?
Yeah.
You couldn't swim.
That's why there's life preservers at those aeration basins because the only hope is you can throw one in, they can grab it and be pulled out.
That's okay. Well, they not only come in on the way in hoping to get a free ticket, but then they, to get in that way, but they come back through, and that we discussed, the value of doing something like that at a time when the town is already full. Those were just personal opinions. And they said, well, it helps the casinos because they don't have as big crowds. And we said, okay, but what would help our community? And we asked about the economics of it, whether it really does bring in the amount of money they want. So those were just things a citizen would ask them. But from our standpoint, what we asked them to do is to take a look at how they could change their security to benefit the district. And that would be in points that we would come up with, and our staff who actually had to stop people would come up with and say, okay, here's where we need somebody to camp out.
And so we've already exchanged email information. We've gotten a name from them by email, and Jeff is going to take the lead for us to. Jeff has already sent out like a map of showing them, the location of our plant versus the event, and where pathways are of trouble, and
put up a sign that says no zombies. That would work.
Yeah, right underneath where it says snow globe parking, which we line our street with all the way out to the Heavenly Creek. Then the cars start, as you go around the corner, parking. So at 5 o'clock, even before the event starts, there's a parade coming up the street. Some of the people are in bad shape already. It's like, and then there's fights out there, and it's like our treatment plant operator is not trained to be handling the crowd.
Somebody, and I don't have this firsthand, it's secondhand, but somebody told me that as they went to clean up out there, it looked like M&Ms on the ground, so many pills and stuff. Put those in a blender with some Jack Daniels. But I am concerned as a citizen, and our concerns, I think, are legitimate based on what you told me.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, they say they run through here, and I think they can get in for free.
I saw them doing it.
Yeah.
I saw them trying.
Yeah.
I don't know how many, but.
Well, they just get. Last year they improved with some signage. They improved. There's a lot of people were just getting lost and kind of wandering through our plant unintentionally. But they put up enough signs that they know to walk on the outside of our fence on the side of the building.
I know the emergency services are overwhelmed. They have to bring in ambulances from outside, and I think it was 30 almost deaths last year, overdoses. where they were trying to keep these kids alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did ask from a vacation rental standpoint, if we're trying to keep the neighborhoods quiet, why wouldn't we then pack 20 kids in each vacation rental in town? So I know when I was 20, it would have been a noisy time.
And Melanie's got a bunch of vacation rentals near her, so.
Pretty crazy.
A lot of fun. Bachelorette parties every weekend. It's great.
BB guns work.
So it's a,
So
anyway, just,
thank you for reminding me about
Yeah.
that.
and just to follow up, but while I was on vacation, I got a email and a phone call from Deb Howard, and I had Paul called her back. Has she called back yet? Anyway, she was inviting us to join. The realtors evidently have a working group on workforce housing.
Everybody's got one.
Yeah, everybody's got one, and looking at their minutes and some of the information, looks like Sue Novosel and people on the Prosperity, Tahoe Prosperity Committee have been over there at their meetings. They invited us to come to their next meeting, which I don't know if it's been scheduled yet. So Paul left a message saying, Paul and I'd be happy to attend their next meeting and talk about what ideas what we have to help the situation.
Good. I think it's good.
Do we have any board member reports? Nothing? El Dorado County Water Agency, there's just a meeting next week. Are you going to go?
Yes.
Richard and I'll attend that. And then the general manager report. How was your vacation?
Wonderful. Yes.
Okay.
So, but since I've been back, I've done a couple things. Lynn Nolan and I attended a meeting this week with Tahoe City, North Tahoe PUD, and CSG, which is our folks in Sacramento, our lobbyists that have been working on trying to get more funding for the Tahoe Basin, and so we talked about a couple of things. There's as you know, the SB 5 is a park bond that's going to be on the June ballot, and we had a very long conversation about the various categories of monies that are in that proposal, and specifically what categories might be available for the PUDs to pursue. They have contact with Felicia Marcus, and so one of the things that there's a couple of pots of money totaling of almost $500 million that we're hoping actually would get rolled into the revolving fund, the state revolving fund loan, because that would be probably the best way of us accessing those funds. A little unclear in terms of the park bond write-up exactly who gets to distribute that money, but that would be one avenue. There is money in there for groundwater contamination, almost $100 million. So we don't need their help to pursue that. But that's would be a positive pursuit. And then the other thing that they informed us about was that the state just gave OES, the Office of Emergency Services, some cap and trade money for the first time, and with the idea of building basically a pre-disaster program like FEMA has. And so when talking to our CSG reps, that they thought they were going to be making phone calls suggesting that what could be included in these pre-disaster programs because of the fires is actually putting money into firefighting infrastructure, which is what we've been beating the drum on down in Sacramento a lot, and so that looks like an avenue of another avenue of approach of trying to getting more money to support our all the money we're spending on our water system for increasing our firefighting flows. So hopefully that will pan out down the road next year and the year after with some additional funding opportunities for us to pursue to help defray some of these costs. It's the number of water lines that we have, the number of boost stations and water storage tanks, stuff, all that work on our system to increase flows is not getting any smaller. So that was a productive, I think a really productive meeting. So, just a quick note, if you notice there was some activity out in front of the building, what Shelley has shepherded out there, our heavy maintenance crew, at this point is to basically convert that landscaping, which is about 11, 12 years old, and take out the water hog plants, the aspen trees and the willows, and take out a lot of the rocks to make it, one, reduce water usage, reduce maintenance activities that have to be done out there every year, put in some low water landscape, basically package some plants, group them together, and then put out some labels for some of these low water use plants, and be able to water it adequately with a drip system rather than the sprinkler system, which has been been repaired over the years to keep the sprinklers going. So end up resulting in less water use, less maintenance, and be literally a demonstration garden for our customers when they come to the building. So that was just started this afternoon. If you notice, there was a little bit of a water out there. One of the things that was good that they found was we have a piping system underneath the sidewalk to melt the snow. Well, it was a leak. We found a leak, and that's what the water was out there. So obviously the first step is, once it was found, is we'll repair the leak, but it slowed them down a little bit in terms of dealing with the water in this front area.
When we first moved in, that was going to be the demonstration garden. We just kind of let it grow, and they planted a few wildflower seeds, but it's just gotten overgrown over the years.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of the result of some influence from the architect on the building and stuff. And so, we'll sort of refocus the demonstration garden aspect of the landscaping out there. And if you notice, it was actually, the willows and stuff were actually starting to literally have covered up the South Tahoe PUD sign on the front of the building. And you can no longer stand out there for pictures, and you can see most of the lettering. So, and so if we put the low water usage landscape out there, it'll really reduce the amount of pruning and trimming and stuff of what was really needed to keep the willows and aspens in check. So should be a plus. So that's it for my report.
Any staff or attorney reports?
Each board meeting I've been coming up talking about fallen leaf, and I just wanted to let you guys know that as of yesterday afternoon, vacuum station 3 is now electric station 3 with all new force mains. They did about 900 feet of force main, the sewer crew. So I wanted to give them, commend them for the job well done. But now station 4 and station 3 are both almost complete. We just have to build a little building or have a tough shed delivered to put the electronics in, odor scrubber. But as far as the station itself, it is pumping and so far is working very well.
Good. Okay, and then we have the past and future meetings, and I think that's it. Anything else, anybody?
Thank you.
Let's adjourn this meeting.
I'm going to show you, if you go to the book depository,